Welcome back, and thank you for joining me on some more interesting questions. We have a very interesting question today. The interesting question is child prodigies or child genius. Um, excuse me. This is something that kind of resonates with a reincarnation theory. Um, I'm more of a spiritualist. I'm not a very religious person, but I do believe in spiritualism. So, me personally, um, I can't say definitively that I believe in reincarnation, but it makes a lot of sense in a lot of aspects. And I think this video will kind of feed in to that aspect. And the aspect it's sort of like take a case and scenario. You take um, two 5-year-old kids, and one 5-year-old kid, he can barely tie his shoes. And another 5-year-old kid can play piano concertos from Mozart and Beethoven. Then you kind of, you scratch your head and you go, why is that happening? So one of the theories behind why this happens is that a lot of spiritualists, in their religions, I think Buddhism in particular, they believe that this happens because that child who can play these piano concertos of like Beethoven and Mozart or whatever, they have lived more lives, or they've experienced stuff. So their spiritual energy is older. It has lived a lot more lives. And this is why they are kind of in the position that they are, and they're capable of doing the things that they do. That makes sense to me. Me personally, that makes sense. Like I'm unable to refute that, because it's the theory behind that is just seems very logical to me as to why this 5-year-old, he can barely tie his shoes, is because he has a younger spiritual energy. His spiritual energy is younger, and it has not lived as many lives. It could be a very youthful spiritual energy, where the other child who's 5, who can play Mozart and Beethoven piano concertos, is because that child has their spiritual energy has lived more lives. It has gone through a lot more. And one of the theories behind that is that kind of like your DNA, it's genial, right? So you can pass on genes to your children: the color of your eyes, the color of your hair, color of your skin, habits, certain habits. Some people have a very addictive personalities, and those addictive personalities are inherited. They come from your mother, they come from your father, they come from their genes. So the theory behind it is that there is something imprinted into your spiritual energy that basically you take with you into these additional lives, or multiple lives, or hundreds of lives, or even thousands of lives you've lived. And you are carrying information with you into the new body, just like you would carry your genes from your mother or your father that they got from your grandparents and your great grandparents, and so on and so forth. So there are theories behind it. To me personally, it helps me to make sense of why some people are just far more intelligent than other people, is because their spiritual energy has been around. It has existed a lot longer than other people's spiritual energy. And when I hear that, the theoretics behind that, that makes a lot of sense to me personally. I go, oh, okay, that sounds theoretic. That sounds very, theoretically sound. That makes sense to me. And I think in a way it just helps me kind of better understand life more from a more intricate level, than other religions. I mean, me personally, I was raised Catholic. I am not a practicing Catholic. I don't go to church. When I became a teenager, I kind of fell out with the Catholic Church. It just didn't interest me. I lost interest in it, in organized religion, Christianity and so on and so forth. And I'm not a practicing Buddhist. I never have been. But I'm saying some of the theories behind life and why things happen the way they do make more sense to me when you look at it from these aspects or these angles. So, I mean, that's my personal opinion. What's your guys' personal opinion? Are you a religious person? Do you believe in religion? Are you practicing religion? Do you go to church, on Saturday or Sunday or whatever day of the week that, you're supposed to practice your religious beliefs? Do you pray to the east? So on and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with that. I respect all religious beliefs. I respect all people's opinions. And that's what you have to do as a society. We live in a very diverse society when you live here in the United States. You have a lot of different cultures and religions and belief systems. And that's what makes America great. I don't necessarily agree with all our imperialistic, influxes or, how we try to influence those things in society. I don't agree with them personally, but I love our diversity. I love that I can go to, I can eat Indian food, or I can eat Korean barbecue, or I can go eat Mexican food or Italian food, or, German food or Mediterranean food or whatever. I love that about the country that I live in. It's very diverse. So leave your comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe if you like my commentary on this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the video. This video right here is 10 incredible child prodigies, brought to you by Top Trending. So here we go.
For many of us, childhood is a nostalgic time, free from the stress and pressures of adulthood. The halcyon days of youth are marked by few obligations and minimal commitments, but some children are so precocious that they achieve unbelievable tasks at a very early age. From setting world records to saving lives, these children accomplish feats that would be impressive at any stage of life. Today, we're counting down 10 mind-blowing child prodigies. Akrit Jaswal's parents knew from the minute he was born that their son was something special. By 10 months old, he could already walk and talk eloquently, and by age 5, he was reading and comprehending Shakespeare. All of this impressed his family and his community in rural Nurpur, India. But Jaswal's literacy was not his most amazing trait. Jaswal also had a proclivity for science and medicine. He blew through medical textbooks and had a relatively sound knowledge of common surgical practices. This became relevant when an impoverished family in a nearby village learned of Jaswal's abilities. Their toddler had burned her hands so severely that her fingers curled up and the skin melted together. Due to her family's poverty, she was never operated on, and for years the little girl's hand was useless. The family could not afford to visit a traditional doctor, and because Jaswal was only 7 years old at the time, they pleaded with Jaswal to perform the surgery. He finally consented. After signing a waiver, Jaswal agreed to do the surgery free of charge. In the following weeks, his parents ordered surgical knives, camera equipment, and anesthesia for the occasion. On November 19, 2000, Jaswal performed his first surgery and separated the girl's fingers for the first time after an hour-long operation. Jaswal's parents documented the surgery and uploaded the footage online. Within days, their son was an internet sensation, and a few months later, Oprah Winfrey interviewed Akrit Jaswal in one of her Little Genius segments. Since then, Jaswal has left the limelight, but he is currently studying bioengineering at university in India and hopes to find a cure for cancer.
That's absolutely amazing. At 7 years old, you're performing a surgery. That's like almost unbelievable.
For Matthew Whitaker, life was challenging from the moment he was born. His mother gave birth a full 3 months prematurely. He weighed less than 2 pounds and was given a 50% chance of survival. Complications from the oxygen Matthew received to keep him alive as a baby eventually led to a degeneration of his retinas, meaning that he was blind before he turned 1. But Matthew was never discouraged. Using an old keyboard that his grandpa gave him, Matthew taught himself simple melodies like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star at the tender age of 3. His parents recognized his gift and offered him more piano lessons as he got older. Because he was blessed with perfect pitch, he learned to play piano mainly by listening, although he learned to read Braille music as well. He later studied at the Harlem School of the Arts, and in addition to taking piano lessons, he learned to play the organ, percussion instruments, the clarinet, and bass guitar. All of this started to pay off when Stevie Wonder got wind of Whitaker's talent and invited him to open for him at Carnegie Hall. This led to Whitaker releasing his first album at the age of 16 and promoting it with an inspirational performance on The Ellen DeGeneres Show. Matthew is currently studying jazz piano at University in New York.
Music is a great communicator, you know, and it sometimes, like I said in the intro to this video, sometimes it's something inside of you. It could be your genetics, or maybe it's inside your spiritual energy. It's possible.
Tom Shar from Malibu, California is a bright kid, but it's not his intelligence that makes him so exceptional. Shar has been a world-class athlete from a very young age, and he continues to excel in his chosen field, skateboarding. He started skating almost as soon as he could walk and began to separate himself from his peers immediately. At 12 years old, he became only the 8th person in history to land a 900 on a skateboard, and from there, skateboarding became his singular focus. As a kid, Tom watched Olympic snowboarder Shaun White repeatedly attempt and fail the 1080 at the 2006 X Games. A 1080 is 3 full rotations of the board while in the air. Many considered this the holy grail of skate tricks because it was unattainable but tantalizingly close. Shar obliterated expectations when he became the first person to land a 1080 at only 13 years old. He was quoted saying, "It was the hardest trick I've ever done, but it was easier than I thought." Since then, Shar has competed and succeeded in a number of X Games, representing the United States. Before he turned 18, Shar was an 8-time X Games gold medalist, an impressive feat for any age group. Things are looking pretty good for Shar as he enters adulthood with lucrative sponsorships from Vans, Etnies, Monster, and LifeProof.
8-time gold medalist, that's astounding. That's just not incredible. That it is astounding. That's almost unbelievable. Kudos to him.
A fuser is a complex device that uses an electrical field to heat ions to conditions suitable for nuclear fusion. The machine generates an electric energy between 2 metal cages inside a vacuum. Without getting too deep into the science of this machine, it was first developed in the 1930s and has applications ranging from energy production, space infrastructure, medical work, and weaponry. In short, it fuses an atom, creating an enormous amount of energy, much like the sun. The concept is hard to grasp even for a seasoned scientist. So when Taylor Wilson of Texarkana, Arkansas successfully fused an atom when he was only 14 years old, the science community took note. As the youngest person ever to build a fuser, he immediately received support from his family and local universities. In June 2012, Wilson was awarded a Teal Fellowship. The 2-year, $100,000 fellowship requires recipients to forego college for the duration of the fellowship. In 2017, Wilson was named a member of the Helena Group.
I don't know, this may be the same kid, and I'm pretty sure it is, but I seen this on like a Joe Rogan podcast. The government literally came in and shut him down because I guess he was, I believe, if my memory serves me correct, he was taking radioactive material out of smoke detectors because there is a radioactive material in smoke detectors. I don't know why there is, but there is. He was taking this radioactive material out of smoke detectors, and he was trying to build, I guess you'd kind of say like some kind of like a reactor from this. And when the authorities caught wind of it, they like came in and like shut him down, and like took everything out. And I believe that there was some kind of university that was so intrigued and so impressed by what he was actually doing in there, they kind of gave him an environment to like continue what he was doing, because they were just like, why would this kid be intrigued by something like this? So they saw the brilliance and they just went, yeah, like we're gonna work with him on this and we're gonna kind of see where he goes with it, which is I think that's a very good idea.
an elite and edgy think tank of global leaders focused on executing projects that improve the world. In this time, Wilson also hosted a TED Talk and gave in-depth consultation to both the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and Department of Energy. Perhaps his greatest contributions to these departments was a highly accurate instrument that could measure radiation far more efficiently than any existent model. Now Wilson is 21, still living with his parents and working out of their garage. He has a full-time biographer, and a biopic is planned for him over the next few years. Ryan Wang only started playing piano when he was 4 years old. That might sound young, but by the time Wang was 5 years old, less than a year later, he was already playing Carnegie Hall in New York City. The undeniable prodigy from Vancouver, Canada has played pieces by every revered composer, but especially enjoys Russian composers like Tchaikovsky, Stravinsky, Borisov, and Denisov. Wang began with the sort of neighborhood recitals you might expect from a 4-year-old, but his talents began to earn him a reputation, and he soon graduated to larger and more impressive venues. He successfully held concerts at Fazioli Concert Hall in Italy, and K Meek Theatre in West Vancouver at the age of 5. He was later invited to perform in The Ellen Show, Canadian Broadcasting Company Music, and the New Year's concert in Beijing, China. He's also been attending the Casal Major International Music Festival since 2015. Though he acknowledges that he's considered a prodigy, Wang insists that he's just a normal kid. He likes food, reading, and playing street hockey with his friends and neighbors. Apparently, Wang's classmates sometimes treat him like a celebrity, and in many ways they're right. Wang has completed several world tours playing piano all across Europe and Asia. With that said, Wang says he still just considers piano a hobby.
He's not an average kid. If you're playing Tchaikovsky when you're like 4 or 5 years old, you're duplicating something like that. That is like one in what I would say 1 in like 10 million people. But for a 4 or 5 year old, that's probably like 1 in like a billion. So he's not your average kid, obviously.
We all remember the difficulty of mental math during grade school. The challenge of performing calculations without the aid of a calculator is notoriously hard. That's not the case for Priyanshi Somani. Priyanshi, right from her kindergarten days, was quick at mentally calculating without any difficulty. Her parents would spend a lot of time quizzing her with small additions and multiplications, and this Wunderkind's answers were correct every time. Her teachers and her classmates were pretty impressed at the ease at which she could mentally calculate. In 2006, at the tender age of 7, she became the national champion in abacus and mental arithmetic competition in India, maintaining the title for 3 consecutive years. Before long, Priyanshi also gained recognition for her mental arithmetic skills at the international level, becoming the international champion in abacus in 2007 at the world competition held in Malaysia. Having gained success with abacus, Priyanshi soon set her sights on higher laurels. She enrolled for the Mental Calculation World Cup in 2010 and reached the finals, to be held in Germany. At the World Cup finals, she was the youngest finalist at only 11 years old, but her young age did not stand in the way of her glittering show at the finals. Priyanshi became the world mental calculation champion, wrestling the title from 37 competitors from 16 countries. Priyanshi is listed in the Guinness Book of World Records for her superlative grasp of mental math.
That's astounding. Yeah, good for her. That's incredible to hear something like that. And like I said, these child prodigies, kid geniuses, just, so it's unbelievable when you find out about these people and you see this type of stuff. It should also make you question what's going on in the background outside of what's going on in just the individual or the person. What's going on in the background? There's something more to it, and that's the thing that we should be looking at or trying to figure out. What makes these people exceptional? Why is this happening? Type of a scenario. It's great that they're doing these things, and it's great that they have these achievements, and I give them all the accolades, absolutely. But there's something more to it that I think that we should be analyzing.
Like most of the kids on our countdown, Tanishq Abraham started to turn heads from a very early age. His parents, especially his mother, noticed that even as a toddler, he loved children's books. And by the age of 2, he could remember and recall everything he heard and read, including literature aimed at a much older audience. At the age of 4, Tanishq was accepted into the Genius Society Mensa with an IQ score of 146. This makes him the youngest South Asian member of Mensa and one of the youngest in the history of the organization. By the age of 5, he had cracked the math courses offered by Stanford University's education education program for gifted youth in less than 6 months. His mother says he's been an achiever since his kindergarten days, but he always maintained a normal home life. His other interests include swimming, soccer, tennis, and ping pong. At age 7, Tanishq was enrolled full-time in a local community college, and he had prestigious universities fighting over him for enrollment before he even turned 11. He's currently enrolled at the University of California, Davis, where he's pursuing a PhD and eventually a medical degree. He too hopes to find a reliable cure for cancer through his dedicated lab work.
Kudos to him. But there's something that I want to say about what they said about him, and it was his reading comprehension level. Reading comprehension is, I think it's very difficult for a lot of people. I mean, I can remember when I was younger, I struggled with reading comprehension. Like, I would read stuff, but like it would be like, blah, 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 blah. It was just words. You know, I didn't intake the way I do now. I intake it. But the thing was, is I remember as a child, I may have been dyslexic or something, you know, because I couldn't retain or absorb what I was reading. It just came out as words, but it was not absorbing or retaining. It wasn't going into my brain as like any type of like, you know, functionality behind it. You know, and it was just weird as I just got older. I think what it was is I just started reading more. And I think what I did is I started reading slower, slowing my brain down. Slow down, brain. Read it, read it, read it, understand it. And that's what you probably have to do with a lot of kids with their reading comprehension level. You have to slow them down. And you have to make sure you can't rate all the kids on a curve that they're all just understanding the same thing. There are some children that need special attention in this, is that they need to read slower in order to basically, it's like an exercise. Some kids have it, some don't. They need to exercise their brain and develop that reading comprehension.
Julian Rios Cantu was only 6 years old when his mother was first diagnosed with breast cancer. Though he was very young, the experience was scarring, and he recounts how difficult it was to see his mother in such a weakened state, fearing for her own life. Cantu's fears were compounded when his mother's breast cancer re-emerged years later, when he was an adolescent. In both cases, Cantu's mother survived, but she was forced to undergo a double mastectomy to stay alive. Cantu refused to be complacent about his mother's condition. Along with his 3 friends from his hometown of Mexico City, Cantu started his own company, Hygia Technologies. Their first product, an auto-examination bra, or EVA. The bra measures several factors like size, blood flow, and temperature, and is especially useful for women with a known genetic predisposition toward breast cancer. An increase in shape, size, or temperature could suggest more blood flow, which could reflect that blood vessels are consuming something, a sign in some types of cancer. And the product was announced well before Cantu's 18th birthday. While the bra is not yet commercially available, Cantu and his partners recently received the Thiel Fellowship, a $100,000 investment to continue their studies with technology and health. Even as Cantu has relocated to Southern California, he wants to ensure that his product pays homage to his mother back in Mexico. Most of the kids in our
look at that situation. That's very touching, because you grew up experiencing these tragedies with your mother who you love, right? But that's the thing, is sometimes out of negativity and tragedy, we find hope. And that's what he did. He's finding hope to help other people, to prevent them from experiencing what his own mother felt. That's amazing. And that's ingenuity. That's what drives people. That sometimes the dark places is what is going to get us into the light. So always keep that in mind. Just because you're in a dark place doesn't mean you're in a bad situation or something that's just, hurting you because you see a loved one in pain, that you're finding a way out of that darkness into that light. And that's a very inspirational story. That's a beautiful story.
Our countdown excel in academic fields, math, science, technology, or medicine. But every once in a while, an athlete comes along whose abilities are just as impressive. Jashawn Agosto got the attention of a local news agency at the age of 11 when a reporter caught wind of his 4-hour daily basketball routine. Drills include dribbling with 2 basketballs at once in ways that would make the Harlem Globetrotters blush. The child's father insisted that he does not push Agosto. Instead, he just tries to keep up, as Jashawn completes 200 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, and 150 squats every night before bed. A video of Agosto went viral, and he started playing competitive basketball at the high school level, though he had only recently left elementary school. Agosto currently plays for the University of Long Island and scored 400 points in his last season alone.
I've played basketball many years of my life because, I grew up, my dad was a huge Laker fan, and I grew up around that. So my dad played basketball. My brother played basketball. I played basketball. So dribbling, it's not as easy as it looks. It's not. It's actually it's a very calculated skill. You know what I'm saying? It involves a lot of coordination and calculation on where that ball's going to move. It's not an easy thing, I'll tell you right now, because especially when you're right-handed, it's extremely difficult to get down your dribbling with your left hand. You can do it. I did it. I got it down. I got it down to where I could do layups with my left hand, where most people are all like, you can do layups with your left hand? And I've even known people, they learn how to shoot with their left hands. And I never learned how to shoot. I could do a layup, but my dribbling skills were very good, very coordinated with my right and left motion. But it's not an easy task. It's far more difficult. The average person, you hand them a basketball, and most people don't even know how to dribble. They're not coordinated enough to do it. So that is very impressive.
Rafath Sharrouk was born with an intense interest in space and astrophysics. He was glued to the lens of his dad's telescope, who was an astronomer and physicist. Tragically, Sharrouk's father passed away while he was still young, but that didn't keep Rafath from following in his footsteps. When he was only 13, Sharrouk was accepted into the prestigious Space Kids program in India. He formed a 6-person team, and with the help of a single adult faculty, began his quest to build an operational satellite. Because they lived across South Asia, the team could only communicate over video chat, with Sharrouk coordinating and delegating the other members of his team. Not only did they successfully build an operational satellite, the team of young men set a world record in the process. At just 64 grams, it weighs about as much as a large battery, making it the lightest satellite in the world.
Oh, wow.
It contains several different kinds of sensors, including those to measure temperature, magnetism, altitude, and any strains on the structure as it hurtles through space. It also has its own power source and a small computer to turn on all the sensors at the right moment and store their data. The team's dream came true before any of them had turned 18, when NASA partnered with them to send the satellite into suborbit from its state-of-the-art facility in Virginia. Do you agree?
That's extremely impressive. My final thoughts on this is just, kind of like what I said in the beginning of the video. It's just, is it more than genial? Do our abilities come from something? And some people may even tell you that it's divine, that it's not reincarnation, is that people gain these abilities through divine intervention. Absolutely. There are people who believe that. And maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. But I have my opinions on what I think is causing this, or what's creating it. Is, to me, it seems very sound that some people, if they're really, like string theory says, that there are multiple universes and you are your alternate self, and maybe you're feeding information off of this parallel universe that is also, and some spiritual energies are older and some are younger. It's just, there has to be an explanation as to why a 5-year-old would have those capabilities that a 50-year-old couldn't even believe of possessing. So there has to be an explanation behind it. So, and this is interesting questions. That's what we do. We ask interesting questions. Tell me what you think about, kid geniuses or child prodigies. Leave a comment below. like, subscribe. Thank you for joining me. And, we got the interesting questions right here. And we got the peace sign as always. So peace and love to you guys. Thank you for joining me. I'm out.